Hello and welcome back to the Fins Nation UK podcast with, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and with me once again is my co-host, Mark Bradley. Mark, how are things?
Not too bad at all, thanks, Andy. How are you? How's a good time away in Paris for the Olympics?
Yeah, it was really good. Weather was amazing. Everywhere we went was just in really good spirit. Didn't see any trouble at all anywhere. It was just the spirit was really there to see. It was just really good vibes, and the events were good as well. So yeah, it was a good week.
Excellent. Yeah, not too bad at all. Apart from my climbing accident that I mentioned to you earlier, I was supposed to be helping out at the Nottingham Caesars. They've got a playoff game in the BAFA League today, and it was going to be the first chance that I'd had to go down and see them because normally the timings clash. And I was going to go down and see them and possibly help, like be the guy on the chains or do something with them. So I was really looking forward to it. And then I went climbing on Wednesday, fell off the wall, and now I'm hobbling around like a 95-year-old, or hobbling around like most of the Dolphins injury list. It would appear. And it seems to be a good week for picking up an injury if you're either A, Dolphin or B, a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, there's a few injuries that we took from the Falcons game. We will mention that in a bit because we are going to look a bit into the Falcons Dolphins game, as well as other news that happened in the last week, such as Tyreek Hill's placement in the NFL top 100, as well as potentially looking at Tua's comments at the "Show Me the Money" comment he made as well. Actually, just want to go back to the Paris thing. I just didn't mention before that. I remember the train transport was terrible. The train connection was awful. Getting into Paris, you were fine. Getting out of Paris was just a joke. I remember asking directions in the train station from the policemen, and they were just there talking casually. Next thing you know, they're just holding guns, like having a chat with you as normal, holding a gun. All of like wherever you went, not just then, everywhere you went, there was guns everywhere with these policemen, and they're just talking to you very normally, albeit obviously a bit of a language barrier, but they're talking to you. And they're just they're casual with the gun in their hand. I thought that was crazy.
Wow. We're just not used to that over here, are we? It's just not something that we see a great deal of.
No, it's like, I don't think I've ever seen a policeman with a gun ever in the UK. Also, I've been to places like America and Paris, been there twice now, and always see, policemen with guns. It's almost like it's more like an army sort of vibe, the police vibe I find with the actual police in France. I felt like I was talking to soldiers more than police men and women. But yeah, no, it was that was crazy. So yeah, going into the main talking point today, which is going to be the Falcons. Dolphins did win their first preseason game by 20 points to 13, and you mentioned the injury report. I mean, it's wasn't a great night for that. I'm just trying to find the injury list. I had it a minute ago. I seem to have lost it. Okay, so obviously 10th of August being yesterday, Aaron Brewer was questionable. He didn't play at all in the preseason win over the Falcons yesterday. Someone like linebacker Ezekiel Vandenberg was having an MRI after sustaining a leg injury. Keon Smith was one of the big ones, torn ACL. So that could be a bit of a timeout. And then Grayson Murphy as well, who did play in the game, the linebacker, he also suffered a knee injury. So yeah, a few players did come away from that game, maybe not in the best frame of mind. Thankfully, though, I will say thankfully, no real starters got injured in that game.
Yeah, no, I think it was a bit of a shame. It's always a bit of a shame. Obviously, Keon Smith, probably the biggest loss with the weaknesses on the O-line at the minute anyway. I see they've re-signed Chosen Hines to come back in. I think they'd only just released him last week as well. So straight back into it. I think the general feeling is that we still need strengthening that area. But it was a bit of a shame to do that, to see the injuries. I think there was a few other people that we'd already got out as well, that everybody's aware of, with kind of Beckham Jr. and Isaiah Wynn and also Jordan Poyer's been out for I don't think he's practiced for about a week or so. We think he's got a thumb issue and stuff like that. So, Chop Robinson didn't play on Friday, Saturday. Didn't play either, which was a bit of a shame. I was kind of hoping we'd perhaps get to see a little bit of him, but Daniel did say that was more of a minor thing, and it was probably going to just be a sort of a day-to-day thing. So hopefully he'll be in the lineup next weekend to get a look at him. And like I say, a bit of a shame for Grayson Murphy, because I think he's one of the sort of the unknowns that's been doing well in training, and he started the game pretty well as well. He had a couple of good coverages and things, and again, it's another position that we're quite weak on. And I think he was looking to get his chance there, but injury unfortunately appears to have scuppered him for that.
Yeah, it's a shame, but I think we'll see more of him. I think throughout the season, I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think only be a matter of time before he comes into the starting team and on a regular basis and does that. But I want to talk about, you mentioned again not getting his chance. Someone who got their chance was Channing Tindall, who I'd say was probably one of the star performers of this preseason game. I mean, looking at stats, he had 7 total tackles, 1 sack, a tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit as well. I mean, I just thought they were a guy that really, I think he's in his 3rd year now. The first 2 years he played for the Dolphins didn't really I don't think ever got on the field before today. I don't remember ever seeing him anywhere. And then that performance there, it just showed me that he can do it. He can perform well, and he has got that potential. So I'm hoping from this preseason alone, if he carries on the way he's doing, he'll get a place in the active roster, and hopefully, he can really build on that going into the regular season.
Yeah, I think he's he did well. When I was watching the game, you could kind of I always think you look out for the people whose name you hear often, and those are the guys that you kind of go, take a little bit of note of, and he was certainly involved quite a bit. And I think again, a bit like when we talked about Quinton Bell the other week, another guy that's been around a while and has not really made that step into either being a regular. Definitely not a regular starter, but not even a regular kind of backup. He, definitely sort of someone on the very, very outskirts of the team. So it's good to see him coming in. And in terms of tackles, I think he was up there with the most in the game with Patrick McMorris, who obviously we drafted. He again, I think he had 9 tackles. I think 2 for loss. So another player that kind of sort of stood out in terms of getting in there, and I think him and Tindall kind of shared the majority of the tackles sort of during the game.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the performance. I think there were a few guys I thought that really came away from the game with their heads held high. Obviously, Tindall being one of them. Jaylen Wright being one. I'll mention him in a bit, but I know you wanted to pay particular focus to our tackle, Patrick Paul.
Patrick Paul. I feel like I talk about Patrick Paul quite a lot. I think
that's why I came to you. I thought you were the man who loved him. So
if people have been watching, they'd be like, "Oh God, he's on about Patrick Paul again." But I'm just quite enamored with the guy. I just think he's got heaps of potential. He's massive. He looks so dominant, imposing, and again, he had a really, really good game. I think he stayed in right up until the end of the 3rd quarter, I think, which was kind of a bit unexpected. But again, McDaniel said afterwards, his hunger for the game, and he wants to play and he wants to stay in, and I can see him very quickly, although he's not being talked about as being a starter on the O-line just yet. I don't think it'll be long before he's kind of getting in there and getting some so at least some snaps in the with the main games. But I thought he did really well. So he looks good. He's got good hands. He opened up some of the lanes. Obviously, we'll talk about Jaylen Wright, I'm sure. But he just looks to impose himself, and I think he could be a really good thing. I was also pleased to see, although he didn't play too much, he played a bit in the 4th quarter. Bayron Matos, who again is a bit of a fascinating one. He played basketball, I think, in college, and kind of transitioned over to football. And when he came in, I think he's even bigger than Patrick Paul. I think he's like another couple of inches taller and that, and he was just kind of stood there, and he kind of stood at and he was like up here, and I find it really. I especially find it amusing when Mike McDaniel goes and talks to them, because the size difference is just really humorous. But yeah, so I was pleased with Paul, and he was kind of the guy that I was really looking forward to seeing and getting to see, kind of how he did, and everything else like that. So yes, definitely very pleased with Patrick's performance, and hopefully more in the upcoming games.
Absolutely. I think that for an O-line that has really, as long as I've been a fan, of 14 years or so, it's always been a problem position, or problem area, I should say. And last year alone, there were so many injury problems to the defensive line. I think it was that Chiefs game where we were just playing a bunch of no names at that point, and most of our starters had been injured. And I think with that will give him. I think that if it carries on the way it's been the last few years, the injuries, he'll get his chance to start. And I think I can even see it be the case where he comes in, starts off as a backup, maybe the sixth choice defensive lineman out of so just on the edge of being the starter, and then one injury to, I don't know, Dean Meichenberg or anyone on that O-line, he can come in, and I think he can fill. And I think if he does that, he won't look back, and I think he may keep his place for the future. And I was really encouraged. Watched the first three quarters particularly. So fell off a little bit on the fourth quarter, but the first three quarters when I watched that, it was I took occasional times I took to really watch what he was doing, because you get so caught up in what the quarterback's doing, what the motions are behind him, what the wide receivers are doing, what the edge rushers on the other team are doing. And I think defensive line, unless someone gets sacked, it's sometimes very easy to just completely miss what they do. So I took time to watch him in particular, because he was getting some praise early on in the game. So I took the chance to really watch him, and yeah, just really good. Particularly, at sort of the pass protection, I thought he was really good at. I mean, there was times where there were times where the offensive line did not perform well, but there were times I watched him, and it just looked like that was maybe his speciality, was the pass protection. Yeah, really impressed, and I think that it's a lot of hype going into the draft and all that, in terms of a high sort of selection by the Dolphins, and everyone's like, who the hell is that guy? But turns out, what I've seen, what I've heard about in training camp, what I've heard of noise around Dolphins beat writers and all that kind of stuff. So his first game I saw him play, I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm really impressed.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I think he actually looks like he's got kind of sort of both sides of the requirements. I think he's basically a left tackle, which is kind of, I think, why a lot of people talk about him as being kind of a backup and not really there, because of Armstead, and he's not going to be Teron into the side, but we all know Teron's injury history and stuff like that. Austin Jackson obviously had a good year on the other side last year. So, I think if he was probably more of a guard, I think people would probably already be starting to talk about him being more of a regular, but I think that's why. But yeah, I mean, the pass protection looks good. And like I say, I think in terms of opening the lanes up, I think there was a couple where he kind of got to the second level really, really quickly as well. And was looking to kind of follow that through and be that lead block for I think it was, I'm sure it was probably right, or maybe even one of Jeff Wilson's runs that he had, and stuff like that. So I'm kind of excited about him.
And I found the mask he wore on his helmet was just really cool. Yeah,
it's nice to see something a little bit different. And I think the good thing about that for me is that goes to his personality a little bit, which I think as a rookie, you've got to have a little bit about you, a little bit of brashness. We all know that everybody thinks the Dolphins are a soft touch. Even Jordan Poyer said that as much in his interviews before he became, when he said, that was what they talked about at the Bills, that, that they could obviously push us around and stuff like that. And I think the fact that he's got like a different face guard, he's not settling into the norms of everybody else. He's got something that, he wants to look mean. He wants to look that way. I think that's a good thing, and I think that's what we need a bit more of. And I've been talking of looking mean as well, just kind of digressing slightly. But Anthony Weaver's a bit of a unit as well, isn't he?
Yeah, massive.
Again, lucky when he kind of went and sort of he was talking to Mike McD, and they were there. They were there, and I mean, he's a. I don't think anybody's going to be messing with him in training and in practice, are they?
Absolutely not. No, I certainly wouldn't. I'm sure you're the same as me.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so no, good potential for the future, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll move on to, you mentioned a player that you've talked about a lot, a player I've talked about a lot, is Jaylen Wright. And his performance was really encouraging to see. I mean, the game started off and I was seeing a lot of Jeff Wilson, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe he won't see him today. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's more in line to start than Jeff Wilson. And then he comes into the game and there was, only a few. I mean, looking at his carries, he only had, looking at his stats from the game last night, he had 10 carries. But there were moments in some of the carries I saw, you really saw his speed. And I think, this is a team that's built on speed. You think of Hill, Mostert, Waddle, A-Chain, it's a team that's built on very fast players. And he just looks just like another one in sort of the long list of fast players we've got. And, he looks really evasive, really quick on his feet. And, he got his touchdown as well. And over 50 yards rushing. It's, a kind of performance where I'm not looking at and thinking, okay, he's going to start ahead of Mostert and A-Chain. But I think look at a guy for future, for a first outing, really impressed. And for me, I think, again, a guy I'm really high on. And again, I must say, I hadn't heard of him before he went to the Dolphins. I hadn't really watched his tape. Maybe one YouTube highlight when I was doing my draft prep, but never really paid much attention to him. But from what I've seen since he's been drafted and everything I've heard about from the beat writers and from what I saw in that game, I think we got a genuine star on our hands. Obviously, I'm speaking way too early. I'm probably jumping the gun a lot here. He could either come out and be rubbish, but I was just really impressed. And I think that Jeff Wilson's already probably lost his second choice spot to, well, he definitely has to A-Chain. And I think he probably may even be the fourth choice running back, the way, if you compare the two performances in that preseason game, albeit it is preseason, and that's why we haven't really mentioned the performance too much overall, because it is just a preseason game. We've won the game, yes, but if we lost, we wouldn't care either. But just from looking at those two performances, comparing side by side, Wilson and Wright, I was way more excited watching Jaylen Wright than I was Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, it was night and day, really, wasn't it? In terms of kind of how dangerous they looked. Really. I know Wilson did have a couple of good receptions, which was good to see for him, and obviously I think he got a TD as well, didn't he? So, it was good from. He did more in as terms of receiving than he did rushing for me. And I think you're exactly right with what you said. I'm right. He looked dangerous. He looked like you kind of felt he was probably, every time he got the ball, that he may have had a breakaway in him, which I never really felt when the ball went to Wilson. And sadly, the same with Brooks when Chris Brooks came in. I mean, I like Chris Brooks last year. I was a big fan of his, and I think he's definitely got a place as kind of a more of a power back and in sort of the blocking game. But he didn't kind of do too much. But again, even Brooks did more than Wilson did on the ground. But for Wright, I think the big highlight for me for Wright was the bobbled pass that he had from Mike White, where he kind of juggled it a little bit on the right hand side, and then pretty much just like ran all the way across the line to the other side of the field and got sort of a 15-16 yard sort of runner out of it, which again I think goes to personality of the player and the kind of the attitude of, I'm not just happy to have this pass, I've nearly dropped it, I'll just go down or whatever. It's like, no, I'm gonna catch the ball, and I am gonna go, and I'm gonna make something of this play that looked like it was gonna be a duff play. And again, McDaniel said that afterwards, that that's how he plays. He plays with a desire and an aggression on his sort of a bit of a chip on his shoulder, where if he does something that he doesn't like in one down, he's desperate the next down to make up for it and to really kind of put it behind him, or to make something of the play if he feels he's done something wrong, which obviously is a great attribute to have. So yeah, I think it's good. I definitely think even on that showing, he's probably kick Jeff Wilson back to fourth choice, and he's definitely going to be the third choice. And it feels a little bit like, and again, like we said, it's preseason, it's early, it's one game. It's not against starters and all of that we always talk about with preseason. But it feels a little bit like what we saw of 18 in preseason last year, where you just kind of feel, like you said there, we might have something here. We might have something in it. Just you look at some of the players, and I mean, to be fair, I mean the Falcons had their running back. I thought he looked quite promising, but there's certain players that you just kind of see a little bit of, and you think actually, they might have something, and I certainly think that it feels like Jaylen might be one of those.
Yeah, I agree. I think certainly for me personally, him, Patrick Paul, and Tindall really were, for me, the three stand-up players. Now, I want to ask you quickly, because we are going to go on to other topics in a minute, but I want to ask you the final thoughts on the game. Just want to give you sort of maybe a particular play or another player stood out for you. I want to sort of bring into attention, put into the ring, Malik Washington's end-round play in the game. I think that it's a guy that we, particularly yourself, talked about a lot when he was drafted, and just how good he could be for us. And it's just one play he had, but I was really impressed with what I saw, because it just showed going back to the speed thing. It just showcased the speed he has, and it just looked like it was just a really clean play to watch. And that particular play I enjoyed watching, and that impressed me. But how about yourself?
Same with Washington. Very good kick returns as well. He did really well on his kick returns. Again, showing that speed, showing that sort of elusiveness on the kick returns. But the other kind of plays that I liked, and in terms of a performance as well, Tanner Connor. He had the big play where I think it was about a 40 yard, and obviously he ended up 3 receptions, 70 yards. He did really well, I thought. We all know that kind of tight end's been a bit of a non-position for us over the past few years, even with both of our favourite player, Mike Gesicki, when we had him, and he wasn't really utilised. But it was nice to see them getting him involved. It was nice to see him getting some yards after the catch as well. Again, another one who kind of went out with an injury, so hopefully he's going to be okay. But good, I was impressed. He got, he's not somebody I've seen a lot of, but he's got a decent size. He looked quick. He looked like he got a little bit of something about him in terms of being able to evade some tackles and things like that. And it was kind of good to see, another potential. And again, talking about the tight end room, obviously, I think we're all kind of expecting things from Jonnu Smith, and we all know what Durham Smythe brings in terms of his size, but Julian Hill's apparently been having a good practice, a good camp as well so far. But it was really nice to see Tanner Connor kind of get in there and kind of sort of again another player I think staking his claim to say I'm here and don't forget about me, and again another player who's been around a little while that hasn't really kind of moved forward too much. So he was kind of the other guy that I'd got in terms of my sort of enjoyment from the game.
Yeah, that one play particularly, the 30-40 yard gain. Yeah, that was probably maybe the best play of the game in terms of offensively. I think I did like that tackle from Channing Tindall. There was one tackle particularly where it was really impressive. But for me, I think that was certainly on offense the most impressive player there. I thought that was really good.
And of course, we have just got to mention a couple of downs for the wonderfully titled Storm Duck.
Oh yes, there's that one. Was it the coverage he made where he had that tight coverage with one of the receivers, and that was quite impressive.
That was good. I think he got caught on like Atlanta's biggest play for about 16, 17 yards, unfortunately. But a couple of other good sort of passes, defense, and stuff like that. And I think everybody's going to want Storm Duck to make the team just because his name is Storm Duck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so tempted to get his jersey because literally one of my favorite animals in the whole world are ducks, and for me, have a Duck on the back of just would be really fun. I think Waddle's on top of the priority list, but I think Duck might be a little bit of an extra purchase potentially, and getting him because that if he makes the final roster,
if he makes it, we don't cut him. Don't sign before, because you can guarantee the day after you buy it, it'll be like, oh, we've cut Duck.
Can you imagine that? That'll be awful. Hopefully not. Hopefully he makes him off. So I'm definitely rooting for Storm Duck to make it. And even Storm's a great name. Let alone Storm Duck. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Almost as good as River Craycraft. Almost as good as River.
Oh, I'd say better. River. I think I don't know. I saw back Storm Duck as a name.
So, although to be fair, if we combined them two and we had River Duck, that would be even better.
Oh yeah, or Storm Craycraft. Nah, not quite.
Stormy River Duck. I don't know, but anyway, some fun names to play with on the side.
Absolutely. Now moving on to the top 100 list. Now, the Dolphins. There's been years where they've had no players top 100 or maybe a couple, but we had 8 players this year now in the NFL's top 100 list. All of them ranked within the top 70. So in total, let me just try and find the exact list because I have lost it. Apologies for this. Let me try and find it a minute. So, obviously, one of the players, Jordan Poyer, was actually not a Dolphin last year. He finished 65th. Jaylen Waddle was 63rd. Bradley Chubb 62nd. Raheem Mostert 60, which is obviously, if you're watching NFL 100, I think from 60 to 70 must be a great one to watch for a Dolphins fan. 36 was Tua Tagovailoa. Jalen Ramsey 25th, and then Tyreek Hill number 1. Now, I don't agree with Ramsey being that high. To be honest, I don't think he did enough. I think he was injured for half the year, and I think Mostert should have been a lot higher than 60th. I really think he should have been maybe even top 30. I think he was to be a leading rusher last season, or since the touchdowns. Surely he's got to be in there somewhere, but it is what it is. But of course, Tyreek Hill being number 1 is the main talking point. Drew around a few questions. People saying should be Mahomes. He won the Super Bowl, and Lamar Jackson MVP, and there's McCaffrey, and I probably would have definitely top 3 Tyreek Hill for me. I probably would have gone him 3rd with Lamar 2nd and McCaffrey 1st, or vice versa with those two. But I didn't think personally he should be number 1, and there was a lot of people saying the same thing. But what was your take on the decision to put Tyreek Hill number 1?
I mean, if you're not going to pick a quarterback as number 1, I genuinely don't think on the field, and obviously this is voted for by kind of the people, the players and everything else like that, I genuinely don't think that there's anybody as dangerous outside of a quarterback. We're talking anybody as dangerous on the field as Tyreek. There's nobody that gets separation. There's nobody that's got the speed, or there's just the combined acceleration and speed. Yes, I mean, we all know McCaffrey is the player he is, but I mean, I'm not overly like I think it's probably deserved, but with the caveat as for me, there's a reason why quarterbacks are the highest paid players. There's a reason why they're the captains of the team. There's the reason why they're the leaders of the team, and it feels like a star quarterback like Mahomes should really be number 1. I wouldn't have Lamar Jackson in the top 3 personally, and I wouldn't have him above Mahomes just for me. Mainly because, I mean, obviously I know he gets MVP, but he had a much better, I would say, overall side around him last year than Mahomes did in Kansas City. And I think in terms of, we all know Lamar can make the big plays, but we know Mahomes can make the big plays. But the difference is Mahomes has done it later on in the season. He's done it in the Super Bowl. He's done it in the big games. So, I would have Mahomes over Jackson, and I probably would have had Mahomes at number 1, and then maybe Tyreek at number 2 if it was me. Which kind of hurts to say because they're an AFC rival and we don't like that. But the same. But I think I almost kind of feel like, he was so close to getting the 2K yards, which hadn't been done, and I think everybody kind of understands that if he hadn't have had that bit of that ankle knocker towards the end of the season, he probably would have got that. And I almost feel like it's maybe a little bit of a recognition of, if that had have happened, he would have broke the record. He would have been over that. And I think people are kind of like, well, that's what he can do. So I think that's probably why he got it. That's kind of how I feel like why he may have got it. I thought it was kind of, I think the first thing he did was rang his grandma when he got told, which was, which was good. And I think, I know we spoke about Tyreek a couple of times, and I think we're seeing a different Tyreek in this preseason, and since the season ended, I think we're seeing a different Tyreek in all the press. He seems to be a lot more focused on the team. He seems to be a lot more focused on what the team can do, what the goals are for the team. Even when he spoke about the new contract that he obviously got and everything else like that, a lot of his discussions aren't about his individual targets anymore. They're not about what he wants to do. It's about his winning a playoff game, and then it's about us going further than that, and then it's getting to a Super Bowl. And it feels like he's had, which I hope has come directly from him. He's had a big shift in his focus, it feels like, and if he's going to be even more of kind of being out for us as the team, then that's even better. And I think that's going to make him an even better player. And and I think another season like last year, I don't think he'll probably lose that position if he kind of repeats that. And like say, if he gets us a bit further down the line, playoff game, a championship game or a divisional game or anything like that. So I kind of feel like it's we spoke many times about the two sides in terms of off the field and on the field, and I think on the field, I think it's. Yeah, I've not really got a problem with it. I think he's done well. And like I say, I would only have a quarterback above him just because it's a quarterback position and it's Mahomes. But I certainly wouldn't. There isn't another wide receiver in the league that I would trade him for. Based on skill. The only thing I think you would ever look at any sort of replacement for him for is just because of his age now, and perhaps we start to see a little bit of a drop off. But I mean, looking at the guy, I don't even know if that's going to be the case for another year or two. But I certainly think on talent alone and on what he brings to the side, I don't think there is a better wide receiver in the league.
I agree. No one's better for me. I think again, exactly what you said. I think if someone goes right, we'll get Tyreek Hill, you get Justin Jefferson. I think I bite your hands off because he is probably the second best receiver, in my opinion, in the league at the moment. And he is about 10 or so years younger than Tyreek Hill. But I do feel like with Hill, I think if you're looking at overall as a player, I'd have no one that is apart from Mahomes. I think, especially for non-quarterbacks, I'd have him over anyone else offensively, Tyreek Hill. But I just feel like, I don't know, I think McCaffrey maybe turned up more in big games. You're thinking about his drops against Kansas City, and whereas McCaffrey turned up in all the big games. And I just feel like, I'd rather Hill in my team. But I think for 2023 season, I would say, I think McCaffrey had more in terms of, obviously they made all the way to Super Bowl and he had a big involvement in that, where Tyreek Hill, obviously, I know he got injured, so there's a bit of an asterisk around that. But I just feel like if we're going based on just purely 2023 alone, I'd have McCaffrey above Hill and Lamar Jackson, but I'd rather have Hill my team than either McCaffrey or Jackson.
I think, like I say, the interesting thing as well there is when you look at McCaffrey and the rushing stats and the number of touchdowns that he got compared to Mostert, and then the massive gap in their positions within the top 100. Mostert's season wasn't massively different to McCaffrey again, other than kind of McCaffrey going longer into the end of the year. So you kind of think, okay, well, is that again, could that be a little bit of a factor? But I agree with you, and I thought Mostert should have been higher than what he was. When you think he was the Tide rushing leader in touchdowns, and they weren't like 1 yard touchdowns either. They were. And there was a lot of them, and then and obviously his receiving as well. So but again, I don't know whether that's an age thing. Again, obviously he's considerably older than McCaffrey, but yeah, I think these sorts of lists and everything else like that always bring up kind of a really interesting sort of cross section of people, because you can tell almost like the people that like certain positions, or that that are like I think it's really difficult to look objectively at players when they're not on your side as well. But I think also when you look at we're all like, yeah, but he's better, he plays for us. But I think there's an element of that. But I also think like you say, I think there's how do you rank a quarterback, how do you rank a wide receiver, how do you rank a running back, and you look at in terms of sort of contribution to the teams. And when you look at defenders, there isn't many defensemen really in the top 10, I don't think. And ask the majority of coaches, and everybody always says it starts with the defense. So you think, well, okay, well, so there's that sort of, well, they say that guy, and you look at, having having the impact of I can't remember his name's gone out of my head, like an Aaron Donald, or or somebody like that that kind of comes in, and those sorts of people. So or the Bosas, or all those sort of really dominant defenders, and they don't really get as high, and it's so I always think it's a really interesting thing. I always enjoy watching it and kind of seeing where people put people. But yeah, it's always a good debate, I think, that one.
Yeah, I think it's a very good thing for Twitter engagement or Instagram engagement. I think you put this list out, there's always someone who disagrees with you. No one's ever going to agree with your opinion on anything. Like whether you put McCaffrey third, second, or first, you put Tyreek Hill first, second, or third. Either one you do those positions for, there'll always be someone going, they should be here, or they should be there, or he should be here. And I think that in terms of those lists, you're never going to please everyone. So for me, yeah, it is one of those ones where I imagine for them they're probably thinking, right, they're going to get abuse either way, just get it out regardless. But yeah, it does definitely bring engagement. The final thing I want to talk about really was just Tua. Now, Guy, I do love to give him some stick, and I have been critical of him in the past. And although I did say that we were right to pay him, if I'm honest, I didn't agree with the show me the money thing he did at a training camp, the open practice session. Now, you could look at it and go, oh, it's just a bit of humour and all that stuff, and it's just a bit of fun. But I don't know. I like my guy to be a little bit more humble, and I thought that was one of the things he brought to the table, was being humble. I don't know. It didn't quite sit right with me. But what was your take on his show me the money comments?
I must admit, I kind of agree with you. I'm probably slightly higher on the Tua fan scale than yourself. I initially thought the same thing when it initially showed you him coming out, and he was kind of like, show me the money, and obviously the crowd went nuts and everything else like that. On one hand, I was kind of like, it's nice to see this side of Tua that he's got a little bit, again, I'm not averse to players having a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, having a little bit of aggression, a bit of brashness, a bit of, sort of, I think it works well. I think one of the reasons Tyreek's where he is because he's got that that element of his personality. And so seeing all that a little bit from Tua, I was on one hand was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool and good to see him kind of getting out and interacting with the fans. On the other hand, I am also like you in that I like a little bit of humility, a little bit of humbleness. The guy's just gone and got like more money than anybody, any of the fans will ever see. And so I was a bit like, and that's a bit out of character. And I also then, as soon as something becomes out of character, you kind of think, why is that out of character? Is this change in the way that he thinks? Is he actually motivated by something different than what I've always kind of thought about him being motivated by? So initially I was kind of a little bit torn by it, but, and I don't know if you heard this, when they asked him about it afterwards, apparently he was put up to doing it.
Oh, really? That changed
Yeah,
everything.
so
That's the case.
yeah, so one of the I was just trying to look quick because I couldn't remember who it said, but it was one of the coaching staff. I can't find who it was. But somebody basically put him up to it in the from the coaching staff. It might have been Butch Barry or somebody else like that. Basically said, you should go out and tell the crowd, oh, show me the money. And he said, I'm not doing that. And they were like, no, we knew you wouldn't do it. We knew you wouldn't do it. You'd never go out and do that in front of the fans. And so he did it because somebody kind of put him up to it. Apparently, that was what he said afterwards.
Yeah, it's a nice cover-up story.
Exactly, and that's always kind of have to take things with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because you kind of think, actually, did he come off and see that there was a few people that weren't happy about it, and so it was like, I'll say that so and so put me up to it or whatever, or was he genuinely kind of having a little bit of a sort of a banter with the staff and everything like that? I guess we'll never know, but yes, I'm a bit torn by it, to be honest. I'm a bit torn if it's dependent on. I guess it depends where it comes from. If it comes from a genuine kind of wanting to have a bit of a laugh with the fans and wanting to, kind of do that, okay, not too bad. But if it does signal that his intention has been, well, I want to get paid no matter what I'm putting in because I'm a starting quarterback at the Miami Dolphins, then, and I was the passing leader, and I was thinking it doesn't really matter about the fact that I've never won a playoff game or I've never done it in the big games and this, that, and the other, then that worries me a little bit. But from everything that he's kind of said since in his media, he's very aware that he hasn't produced in the big games. He's very aware that the team haven't produced in the big games. He's aware that they've got to kind of improve on that, and that's the next step that he needs to take. So maybe just perhaps caught up in the moment kind of thing. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt purely because his previous 4 years of media and interviews, and that doesn't seem to be his personality. It does seem to be a bit of a change. So he's got a little bit of a sort of some stock, some sort of money in the bank, as it were, for being able to kind of do that, and may not think that he's actually being a bit of an ass about it.
I don't know whether it was the last off season or the off season before last, his birthday party. I don't know whether you saw this footage where he was dancing on stage and all this money was being chucked on him. I don't know whether you saw that. I don't know what year, whether it was last year or the year before, but you think about that now. Yeah, I know you got to think maybe he is. I mean, thankfully, we got to say he didn't hold out. He didn't. I know there's one day where he didn't practice much, but the following day he signed the contract. So from everything I've seen, he's not been seen that much of a locker room cancer. But yeah, I think if you add in the showing the money thing as well, was wanting the money in the first place, but then also that footage of him, I can't think what year it was, whether it was a year ago or 2 years ago, where he is dancing around on his birthday. It might have been actually, it was definitely post the injury, so it might be in the 2023 off season, where he was dancing around in money on stage, almost like something you'd see in a not so PG nightclub kind of happening.
Not so PG nightclub. No, I don't think I did see that. So, like I say, so maybe there's like I say, it's just sometimes you see, maybe it's one of those very carefully crafted images that he's got, and maybe sometimes it slips, and maybe that's the kind of the real person that you see behind it. So, maybe that's. Yeah, maybe there is a little bit of that maybe, but yeah. Oh, here we go. I was just trying to find where it said, but I can't find it. It was in the interview afterwards. Anyway, I'll see if I can find it for the next time and confirm what it was. But I'm sure it was like Butch Barry or Wes Welker,
right?
Somebody definitely one of the backroom staff guys, I think, who'd kind of put him up to it.
Well, yeah, that if that is generally the case, then yeah, I'll take on my comments, and I'll give a lot more respect. At the end of the day, to be honest, even if you're a really cocky player, I've been praising Caleb Williams recently, and he's no modest Molly, but then they could be like that, or they could be the most modest quarterback in the world or player in general. But as long as you're performing on game day in the regular season, that's really what I care about. Because let's face it, half the players in the NFL aren't exactly probably role models. So we can't just vilify every player. Apart from the quarterback in the Browns, but apart from that, I think it's if we're looking to be pot of 5 players, that's half the league gone. If you're looking at wrongdoings, but Tua, at least he's not there, doing anything illegal, nothing criminal. But
true.
Yeah.
True. Did you see? Just we're talking about Caleb Williams. Did you see any of the Bears preseason game?
No, I knew also it was on the same sort of time as our game, and
he looked very good.
Did he play in it?
Yeah, he played more. I wasn't expecting him to play as much as he did, but he played, and he looked good. It has to be said. So I think, I think they'll be quite pleased about that for his first preseason game. So he did. I think he did. I was quite impressed with. I was quite surprised to see Michael Penix playing in ours as well, but. He looks okay, but Caleb. If you can check out the highlights on DAZN, he did quite well. He did quite well. So a couple of big things, but again, I think Jaden Daniels did okay in the Commanders game from what I've heard, and
I saw the one
down the line, didn't he? So
if I'm honest, I always watch Dolphins games because it's the Dolphins and it's your players and. Apart from that, I don't really watch any other teams play preseason. Like come regular season, I'm watching all the teams. I'm watching all the games. iPad on one screen with Dolphins game on Game Pass, one screen with Red Zone, or vice versa. And always. But I don't even know what hard scores were in preseason from this weekend. I couldn't tell you. Apart from the Bills score you mentioned to me, I did
you the Bills lost big. Which was really good. I don't care it's a preseason game for the Bills. They got hammered.
I mean, come rain or shine, I always have seen the Bills get destroyed. But for me,
and they were woeful. They were woeful as well. They were woeful.
Were they playing any starters? Were they playing anyone like that? Was
they had a few. Like Khalil Shakir was playing. And,
that's nice. Okay.
Who else did I see? I'm trying to think. Who else did I see? There was definitely a few that were kind of in there and that, but I mean it's preseason, it doesn't matter, but it's still nice. It's still nice. It's still nice to see, and so I was quite pleased about that. To be fair,
it's always good to see him lose. And I did watch a little bit of the Chiefs game purely because of Reece Summit. But I was fast forwarding between or pressing the 10-second button thing whenever the Jags were on the ball offensively. Didn't really care about that. I just wanted to see for the first time ever a Welshman playing the NFL. So I liked, even though he only had about 4 or 5 plays, but it was good seeing him get involved. But I couldn't even tell you half the scores in the NFL because in the preseason, because quite frankly, unless it's the Dolphins, I don't really care about preseason. So I think the first week I get an interest because been so long without any NFL action, but certainly from now on, I'll let you only ever watch for the next 2 weeks the Chiefs highlights and the Dolphins game.
33-6, the Bills lost. It was to the Bears. It was to the Bears. It was to that. So I was like thinking, why did I watch Caleb? And that's why, 'cause it was the same game.
Makes sense.
It was to the Bears. Sometimes it's hot. It's hot. It's my brain's going.
It's incredibly warm. I'm struggling.
But it was. It was it was against the Bills, and they didn't have. I think Tyler Bass was when your best player is Tyler Bass, that says everything about the like that. Although I must admit there was a little bit of a sting. Because I did notice, and this has just come out to me, I did notice Frank Gore Jr. playing for the Bills. Really nice if we'd have got him. But he did okay. He played well, but it would have been nice if we could have got him just for nostalgia's sake. But
it would be nice.
He can play well now, but you don't want to play well second game of the season.
No, please don't.
Yeah. So I think we'll have more enough to worry about with James Cook, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. He is a very, very, very good player and a big threat for us. But that is where we will end this podcast for today. So once again, huge thanks to my co-host Mark for today's show.
Thanks, Andy. Good fun as always. And obviously looking forward to the getting another week closer to the season.
Absolutely. And talking of that, we are going to be bringing you a dual episode on the podcast for the season preview. Same thing we did last year. So we'll be doing an episode that will be released both on my own podcast across the pod, where I do general NFL chat, and I'm having a fan of every team come on to preview their team season. So we are going to do an episode. I think we're recording on the 19th of this month. So that'll be out probably mid-August to late August with Sam Walls, who's been on the show on this podcast before as well. So you will be getting that season preview episode to preview the Dolphin season, getting a lot more detail. But we will bring you, I'm sure, after next week's preseason game, the review on that one. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And of course, don't forget to keep following the podcast, spread the word, subscribe, follow, however you're watching it today. If you've got friends who's a Dolphins fan, sign them up to our podcast, get involved, and hope you can tune into our next episode. But in the meantime, this has been the Fins Nation UK podcast with your host, Andy Davis, your co-host, Mark Bradley, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Fins!